Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in today. My name is Melanie, and I'm better known as the probate nurse in the greater Tampa area. And today is a very exciting day for me because we're actually launching our very first podcast for the probate nurse, and it's going to be called the Probate Nurse Podcast. And I'm beyond thrilled, to be honest with you guys. And what we're going to be doing on this podcast is going to be weekly. We're going to actually be talking to people that are involved in the senior community, transitioning, downsizing, talking to people that have inherited property. We're going to also be talking to people that are involved with estate planning, legacy planning. We're going to be talking to lawyers about that, and financial people that talk about wealth preservation. And most importantly, on this program, how to avoid probate. So joining us today, and I'm very, very excited, is the accomplished estate planning probate attorney, Lorien Smith Johnson. And Lorien is a Louisiana native who has resided in Tampa since 1989 and has been practicing law for 24 years now. Lorien graduated cum laude from Tulane University and from the University of Florida Levin College of Law with honors. So her volunteer experience includes serving as president of the board of Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and her husband is an attorney as well. She also has worked with indigent individuals in the Hillsborough County area. So welcome to the Probate Nurse, Lorien. We're so honored to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here today because, as we know, estate planning, we're going to talk about estate planning today. So estate planning is so essential right now, and there's so many people that don't really know about it. They don't really understand what it means. Can you just fill us a little bit in on that in just a moment after we talk about you, and tell us a little bit about your background and your bio?
I think you've covered most everything really well. I grew up in Baton Rouge, went to Tulane and New Orleans, love Louisiana, but absolutely love Tampa and have never regretted coming here.
Oh,
I would love to jump into the estate planning part. I moved into this area of practicing law about 10 years ago, and I love it because I'm helping people. Estate planning is not just about making sure that your beneficiaries are taken care of, but it's also about making sure that you're taken care of while you're alive. One of the things all of my clients need to get, or that I recommend highly, is a durable power of attorney.
mm,
This lets someone handle your finances while you're alive and your legal issues so that if you can't or you don't feel like it, you're taken care of. You also want to designate a healthcare surrogate. This is
mm.
someone who can make medical decisions when you can't. You're unconscious. The doctor needs someone to consent and to understand what's going on. This person can help you out.
And that is huge, especially the durable power of attorney, both financial and medical. You know, being a nurse for over 30 years, we've seen incapacitated clients that don't make it off the operating room table, or they're terminal and they don't leave. So yeah, it's really important to have that done. So I appreciate you kind of explaining what that means. We'll kind of dive into that a little bit more. And when I was reading your bio, it's pretty awesome. And I happened to see that you are AV rated. What exactly does that mean for a lawyer?
The AV rating is Martindale Hubble speaks to other attorneys in your area and your area of practice. And so you have to be recommended or brought to their attention. And then they do speak to at least 5 different lawyers, if not more, about you and decide if you're good enough to be rated by them as AV. AV is their highest rating. And I've been rated that way for over 20 years.
Wow, that's pretty amazing accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank
That
you.
is huge. Yeah, to be recognized like that. And fill us into, I know your husband's also a lawyer. I didn't mean to ask you that a second ago. What kind of a lawyer is he? Does he do the same thing as you?
No, he does not. He represents employers that have been accused of either discriminating against employees or not paying their wages correctly. And he helps also avoid those things happening and reviews employment manuals and things
Yeah.
such as that.
Oh, that's awesome. Keeping in the family. I love it. I love it. You two understand each other.
Yes,
That is
we do. That's
great.
been a big help.
That is awesome. So I know this is probably a loaded question, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but the benefits of actually having an estate planning attorney, what would be the reason why people would need an estate planning lawyer, especially with, the baby boomers kind of aging out, like, really preservation of wealth? Can you go into that just a little bit deeper? Like, why is it important to have a lawyer who's estate planning?
You want someone who can talk to you, understand your goals, and make sure that the documents match what you want to accomplish. There are definitely cheaper ways to do it online, but those may or may not get you the best advice or what the best documents to take care of you
Mhm.
and to take care of things after you pass away.
Sure. And would you say that people, number one hesitation is because they don't fully understand why they need to have it, or do you think it's cost, or what do you think it is? And they just don't want to talk about their demise? That's kind of what I see.
Yeah, that is a lot of it. And then the other thing that I see a lot is even when they realize and
Mm,
know that deep down in their hearts they need to do it, it doesn't seem like it's urgent. None of us think we're going to die or get incapacitated anytime
sure.
soon. And so it's something that even if it becomes top of mind, it generally falls way back down the list when life gets in the way. I've had people come back, 2019 that, are finally getting around to doing it. And,
Sure.
better late than never, but better
But
sooner than later.
but yeah, and being in the baby boomer range myself, it's not uncommon to lose friends, going into your
Yeah.
50s and early 60s. And I really, one of my missions with the probate nurse is to really present to people that it's so important, especially
Mhm.
when you're looking at your wealth, you're looking at annuities and stocks in your home. So when in my real estate world, when we close on a home for a client, we do ask them if, to think about putting their home in a trust to protect their home. So can you say a little bit about that and why that would be important to have a trust on a home?
In Florida, the home is protected from any creditors. So we normally find that the best way to take care of the home is to call to have an attorney prepare what's called a ladybird deed. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically putting a beneficiary on your home while you're
Sure.
alive. You can do whatever else you want to do with it.
Mhm.
You're still the owner. You can sell it, you can sell part of it, you can change the beneficiary if needs arise. And the beneficiary doesn't have to agree to any of this. But when you pass away, it the property ownership immediately passes to your beneficiary without going through probate. Some people have the beneficiary as their trust if they want to make sure, if they have special needs regarding the house. They want someone to be able to live there a while, someone to have the right of first refusal on buying the
Mhm.
home. Or they have children that are either young or irresponsible. That happens occasionally.
It sure
Um,
does. Mhm.
that it goes into the trust so that the
Mhm.
trustee controls how the funds are allocated over time.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, if you have older responsible children and, one or two, not a real
Yep.
complicated
Mhm.
distribution plan, you can do it to the individuals. If not, a trust is a good way to go.
Yeah, I have to agree. The trust is really great. And what that does is when we encourage our clients to do that, it also opens up conversation about doing their own estate planning. So, having come out of situations with my family, I think we discussed this before, that I had three family members pass recently, and my father was one of them, and he had all of his estate planning in order, home trust, everything was so easy. So really all we had to do is just notify creditors and things like that after he passed away. My older brother passed at age 60 last year, about 2 months before my father, and he had partial estate planning done, but not all of it. So
Yeah.
his home was not in a trust. He did not have anything done with the home. So luckily, his estate planning lawyer came up to the emergency room and they signed a ladybird deed,
Yeah.
which was phenomenal. He's got two children in their 20s, and they were traumatized and shocked. And, just to have to add that on and have to
Yes.
deal with that home going through probate, not only just, the emotional aspect of it, but the money that you lose from the estate,
Right.
and the costs, the administrative costs and things like that. And so having it transferred directly to my nephew and my niece
Right.
was really so helpful for our family in that time. And then we could deal with other aspects of his account. So it made it a lot
Right.
easier for us to deal with. So now we did talk a little bit about the forms that are needed. So when you're looking at people that come to you and they're seeking your advice, do you tell them to get a whole package? Where would you start them? Like what forms are needed?
I recommend that everyone get a will because you want to be the one telling the court where your assets should go. A will does not avoid probate, but it
Mhm.
does designate where you want your assets to go. And
Okay.
it often happens. Mom wanted me to have, well, if mom didn't write it down, your mom's house is owned by you and your 8 siblings.
Uh,
Then and I've seen that happen.
sure.
A durable
Sure.
power of attorneys for the
Mhm.
financial aspects, the healthcare power of attorney, where you designate your healthcare surrogate. I highly recommend, well, I mean, a living will is a personal choice as to whether you want that to be done.
Sure. Okay.
Because different people have different thoughts on what they want to happen if they're down to just being on a feeding tube.
Sure.
A deed, ladybird deed is a wonderful thing to have if
Mhm.
you do know where you want it to go. A trust, not everybody needs to have. I highly
Mhm.
recommend a trust when, again, you have young or irresponsible children. When you own a company that needs to be up and running the next
Mhm.
day, or when you own property out of state, because without a trust and having that property put in the trust, your family has to go through a probate in that other state.
Sure.
Uh, and after that, I mean, there's always a chance you can put beneficiaries on everything, even
Mhm.
on bank accounts. Banks aren't real likely to tell you that you can put a beneficiary on
Yeah.
bank accounts, and most don't. But,
Mhm.
like a life insurance policy, you
Mhm.
can put a beneficiary on your bank accounts. So if you have that done and you have beneficiaries that are living when you die on all of your accounts and property, whatever, then there is no probate. I mean, I
I
had one
re
client who was really, really was wanting a revocable trust, but she only had one child. And a revocable
okay.
trust only avoids probate if you put the revocable trust as the beneficiary of everything. But if
Okay.
she wanted everything to go to her son, she could just make her son the beneficiary of everything. And then he wouldn't have to go through probate and she didn't have to pay me the extra
Mhm.
amount for a trust. But it was a
Mhm.
bit of a conversation.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And when you talk about beneficiaries, I know sometimes that can be hard for family members, for
Right.
the father and the mother to choose, or even for your siblings. So how, have you had situations where it's been difficult to name the correct beneficiary? And then what happens when that person becomes irresponsible, as you mentioned? What can people do about that?
One of the benefits of a revocable trust is that you can put a lot of restrictions on it.
Mm,
For parents with younger children, they can put a prenup postnup requirement
mm,
in it before larger amounts of money are distributed. I also put a substance abuse clause in the land of God forbid something like that were to happen. And you
yeah.
just never know. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of lawyers turn into alcoholics because they're miserable. The whole fentanyl or whatever the painkiller that came up is
Mm-hmm.
another one that no one expected. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but with trust, especially with the younger irresponsible children, I highly recommend a trust because the trust, by virtue of, or you can set it up to do the funds however you want to do it. But
Okay.
most of the people leave it, the health education, maintenance, and support of their beneficiary is taken care of. And then they can do lump sum distributions at a time when they think the child might be, or whoever might be mature enough to handle it. Ours is set up that our children get a third at 25, a third at 30, and a third at 35. I had a client come in and their son had reached 24 and they had that plan. And they didn't think he was ready. They wanted to change it to 30, 35, 40 for him.
Okay. So with that being said then, and I like how that's set up. I really like that. So with that being said, then could you also do something on a monthly payment, or would it be
Yes,
better to do like a yearly like that?
you can do whatever you want. It's
Mm,
your money.
love
You
it.
can, they have no control over it. It's your decision. You're the one that earned it.
Mm,
You need to set it up like you want. Also,
mm,
speaking about the younger children, I almost feel like it's criminal if you don't have your plans in place for your children. You want to name who you would want to make healthcare decisions while you can't. You're all in a car accident, you're
mhm,
unconscious. The doctor needs someone to make decisions for your child. Also, if goodness, God forbid, you passed away while your child was a minor, you want to be the one that tells the court who should be the guardian of your child. And
sure.
so it is so important to have those
Mhm.
documents in
Oh, that's
place.
wonderful. Yeah, because that was my next question. What would happen if the child was a minor? Then basically that becomes like a guardianship and different
Yes,
paperwork. Okay, got it.
but
Got
you
it.
want you want to name the person who will be handling that paperwork and taking care of your child.
Definitely. Yeah, that's
And
why I
that's part of
encourage.
my package every time there are children involved.
Mhm. How about when you have, you probably sometimes feel like you're the mediator too, between family drama, because we all know that when family members pass away, especially matriarch, patriarch, siblings can fight. How do you deal with that
Unfortunately,
when there's, only one person on the title of the home and you've got four siblings, one of them is living in the home and they're taking money and they're, helping themselves to everything. What would be a quick resolution for that? Like when would people come to you to help with that?
the I handle what I call happy probates, where everybody gets along.
Yeah.
I mean, I can handle minor disputes and talk people through things,
Mhm.
but if they're having to force someone out of a house, or Sister Susie stole money from mom's
Sure.
account, you need a litigation attorney
Wonderful.
to address that.
Mhm.
And I have plenty of names of people who do a wonderful job of that
Mhm.
that I could recommend.
That's great because I know, in this business, it's so wonderful to have that network of people that we can refer our clients
Yeah.
to. And I'll be referring mine to you for their estate planning needs. And can you explain to us a little bit? I know we've mentioned the word probate a couple of times. So what exactly does that mean?
Probate is the process of transferring the assets from the person who has passed away to their beneficiaries. If they have a will, they go to the people that they want the assets to go to. If
Mhm.
they do not have a will, Florida law dictates where it goes. First, it goes to a spouse and children.
Mhm.
Neither a spouse or children. It goes to your parents. If there are no parents, it goes to your siblings. And if a sibling has passed away but had
Mhm.
children, it trickles down. So the law is very takes care of where it should go, and it gets so incredibly extended that it's really difficult. Most people are worried that if I don't say something, the
Mm.
state's going to get it. It has to be. You have to have absolutely no one for the state to get it. It's pretty difficult to get to that place.
Okay, well, that's good to know because I know a lot of people, a lot of misconceptions, honestly, about
Yes.
estate planning and probate. When someone dies and there's no will or anything, people think, oh, the state's going to take it. And that's not necessarily true. So what are those steps in the probate process to just kind of clarify for people just what the steps are?
Yeah. There are two types of probates in
Hmm.
Florida. One is called a summary administration. And if the decedent is what we call the person who died, had less than $75,000 in assets without beneficiaries named, not including the home. So they can have a homestead. But if they, other than that, had less than 75,000 in assets, it goes through an abbreviated process called a summary administration.
Okay,
Those are less expensive and much shorter. Depending
sure.
on whether they had creditors, it can
Mm-hmm.
take a month to 3 months would be the normal time in Hillsborough County. Some counties take a little longer, but Hillsborough County is very efficient. The judges like to get things done as quickly as possible. However, if they have more than 75,000, which,
Mm.
it's not a bad thing for the beneficiaries.
It's a
The
wonderful
process,
thing, but
yes, the process is takes a little more time. It's called a
sure.
formal administration, and that's
Mhm.
when a personal representative is appointed, and
Mhm.
they gather the assets, pay the
Okay.
creditors, and then distribute the remaining assets to the beneficiaries as either named in the will or
Mhm.
dictated by Florida law. And that can take 6 to 9 months if it's going quickly.
Mhm.
I mean, I have one that's been going on for 4 years, but it was, you know,
Sure.
there was a lawsuit involved for a while, and then they
Mm.
haven't been able to sell the property, and they're just working through the process.
Mhm. Really interesting stuff. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for breaking down. A lot of people don't realize that there's different types of probate with different monies, involved, and the timeline, I guess, for how long it can take. We've helped clients that have taken up to 3 years. It just really depends what's going on, and
Right.
and if everyone's cooperating, because sometimes
Yes, that makes
I've
all the
seen.
difference in the world. I'm talking about the everybody cooperating situation, not
Yeah.
the people fighting and hiring attorneys.
Mm,
That can take a lot longer. And
yeah.
I mean, people worry that it's a horrendous process. It's not that bad in
Mm-mm.
Florida, but it's still, if you can avoid it, it saves money and time for your beneficiaries.
Sure.
And that's where the naming the beneficiary on your bank accounts, the doing a ladybird deed, all
Hmm.
those things can avoid probate.
Hmm. Yeah, protecting your assets. I mean, that's really what it's about. And I think, going
Right.
into all the baby boomers aging out, it's just phenomenal. And they're calling it the silver tsunami. And, and,
Yeah.
and it's actually, I know that there's the largest transfer of wealth is taking place. And so we're encouraging everybody, make sure that you get that estate planning done. I mean, a lot
Right.
of these clients that we're working with have multiple homes, and they might not just be here, they might be in Las Vegas or California
Right.
or out of the country. And so to have everything written down, it is like the largest gift you could ever give to your children. It's like, hey, Merry
Yes.
Christmas, Happy New Year, you're taken care of. It's a wonderful birthday gift, honestly. And you
Yes,
can't
it
tell people
really is.
enough to do that.
Yes. And one other thing, one of the benefits of a power of attorney is if it's
Hmm.
done properly,
Yeah.
if you want to go on to Medicaid, it's not just the purpose of Medicaid. Interestingly, the
Hmm.
government will let you legally hide assets, which
Hmm.
is very surprising given the IRS and everything else. But
Sure.
then you can legally hide assets. You can have a home in Florida and one car, and that doesn't prevent
Mm.
Medicaid. But it makes sense to do Medicaid planning or allow the power of attorney, your agent, to do it, because Medicaid is not going to pay to keep you in the style you've become accustomed to or take care of some of those extras that are really basic. So if your agent has the ability to set up to put funds aside, then your agent, Medicaid will pay for, I'm making up a number, but 80% of
Hmm.
what, I mean, they'll pay for, room at a nursing home or something, but this will allow your agent, your trustee, to pay for some of those other things to make your life better. So that's another incredible reason to get your power of attorney in place as soon
Hmm.
as possible.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really understand, Medicaid at
Right.
all. So would that be something that you would do, or would that be something that's referred out? How would
I
that?
do the power of attorney, which gives the person the ability to set those things
Got
up.
it. Okay, great. Thank you for
But it
clarifying.
is a power of attorney. Florida has specific rules about it. You have to be careful pulling something off the internet, because if you don't initial
Mhm.
giving those rights on top of signing the power of
Yeah,
attorney, you have
yeah.
to initial those specific grants of rights to allow them to do that Medicaid planning.
Hmm. Okay, wonderful. And one recommendation too is that when you are going to do your estate planning, what is the downfall of doing it online and thinking that you can do it yourself for like $100? Like what is missed when something like that is done? And people really do think that they are safe by doing it online.
Right.
Hey, I've got it done. I'm cool. I'm good to go. So what could possibly go wrong?
Honestly, those things are probably better than nothing, but
Mm,
You have to make sure in Florida that it's witnessed properly.
okay.
Both the power of attorney
Mm,
and the will. The power of attorney, again, if you don't have those spots and those initials filled in, your power of attorney does not do what you want it to be able to do or what you
sure.
need it to be able to do. Also, if
Mm,
you have a power of attorney, but you signed it in Florida before through 2011, it's not effective as to those things because that's when the law changed.
mm,
Additionally, if you move into Florida from another state, yes, your will is valid. Yes, your power of attorney is valid to the extent that if it doesn't comply with Florida law, and I haven't seen one that does, instead of
sure.
having all those initials, again, your agent can't help you with that Medicaid
Mm,
planning.
mm-hmm.
So those are all reasons you really need to make sure you have your power of attorney done properly. And
Um,
I've never gone online and tried to do it to
yeah,
see how effective they are. So I'm not
sure.
speaking from personal experience, but
Sure.
that would be things you really want to make sure
Mhm.
that that document does.
Absolutely. So if people want to come see you, what is that process like to actually start an estate planning process with you? What can people expect when they come to see you? How long would that
I
take to
try
see
to
you?
make my process as simple, not simple, but as uncomplicated as
Mhm.
possible. I have a questionnaire that's 4 to 6 pages, depending on what you're looking for initially.
Wow.
Once you get that
Mm,
information filled out, or as much as you can, because there are blanks that people, want to think about or are not sure the best way to
mm,
fill it out. We get together, we go through and complete everything and discuss some of the things that are a little complicated to
sure.
explain on the questionnaire.
Mhm.
And then once we figure out the best documents, I make my recommendations, the clients make their decisions. Then I give them an engagement letter. They officially hire me to be their attorney. And then
Yay.
we set the date for the signing then. And I try to have them in within 4 weeks. They're in my office signing their documents, and I get the draft of their documents to them a week in advance so they can
Okay.
review it, ask any questions, and then I'll run through the documents, quickly when they're in about an hour to go through all of them, as opposed to, I guess, my brother-in-law, an engineer, wanted to
Mm.
go through every single line. And it took us 6 hours, and his wife
Oh,
fell
wow.
asleep after three, and we had to
That's brutal.
yes, postpone it to the next day to do the other 3 hours. But
Mm.
basically, I mean, you can hit the high points. You really don't need
Yeah.
to know what paragraph C for line number 2.5 means. I mean, the rule against perpetuity, most of us attorneys don't understand. And it's
Right. But
just,
it's a fear factor, people are really
yes, it
afraid.
is. Am I giving my life away? No, you're not.
Yeah, and this is one thing you don't want to be afraid of doing. This is the one thing that's going to be beneficial for yourself and your
Right.
family. So, okay, that's
Yeah, and I've
great.
had clients, I think that one I mentioned who didn't come back until after 2019 or since 2019, they came in November of last
Yeah,
year. And after we went through the questionnaire, the wife said, goodness gracious, if I had known it was so easy, we would have done this a long time ago, because people think it's
seriously.
so complicated, and it doesn't have to be. And it
No, it doesn't
doesn't,
have to be. And I think it's just kind of like normalizing, that it's okay to get your pre-planning done, whether it's done estate planning or, your funeral prep or whatever it is that you need to
yeah,
do. Remove the stigma and just know that, hey, it's inevitable. We all have to do this, and the
yeah,
sooner the better that we get this
exactly.
done. So yeah, so thank you so much for explaining all this. Is there anything else that you would like to add in there that anyone would need to know in terms of, just estate planning or probate before we give all of your contact information?
That I think that covers the
I
basis.
think
You've
so
asked
too.
wonderful questions.
Great. Okay, great. So how can people find you?
I have a website, Lorien S. Johnson, PLLC.
Okay.
My cell phone is 813-758-3492. That's my only number.
Oh, nice.
So they get me directly. They're not having to go through an
Wow.
answering system. And I prefer to work through email and phone. Some of
Sure.
those younger folks are into text, but it's much easier to track and make sure things are addressed if you do it by email, in my humble opinion, and if
Yeah.
you're working with me.
Yeah.
But
Let's
yeah,
have a
I'm
hard
happy to
copy.
assist anyone. Yes.
Yeah, let's have a hard copy. I prefer that as well. When you start texting things like, accounts and things like that, it gets lost and anyone can get their hands on it. So just really recommend people to reach you. So your email, lsjohnson@lorienjohnson.com. And then phone
Lorien at
number.
Johnson.com.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, yep, sorry about that. And then office again, 813-758-3492. And that is your cell. You're very trusting. And then
Yeah.
any social media pages that you are currently on?
I have a Facebook page.
Okay.
My assistant just set it up for me,
Mhm.
but
Great.
it's not. I have some blogs posted on my website,
Mhm.
or some articles, and I think she
Sure.
transferred those over to the
Great.
Facebook page as well.
Okay, awesome. So
And
then
I'm
when
on
you,
LinkedIn, but
yeah,
I don't
people
post
can
much
find you.
there as well.
They can find you on LinkedIn and that. So, at our next conversation, then we'll delve into something deeper again, and then we'll have hopefully that page will be set up and people can get on there and see the blogs. And do you also have blogs on your website?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. So I encourage people to go there, educate yourself and get some information. So thank you so much. Really appreciate you, Lorien, coming in and sharing all of your just a wealth of knowledge, And everybody, if you need some help with your estate planning, please reach out to Lorien. She is amazing. Not only is she, a part of my network, she's a friend, and I just love her. She's authentic and genuine, and you'll be in great hands with her. So please, please reach out to her if you need her for anything. And thank you again, you guys, for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. And please join us for our next podcast. We're going to try to do these weekly. And our next guest will be Ellie Baldwin, and she is the founder and president of Sunway Senior Living Concierge. And that is a senior placement business located in Pinellas County. And if you guys need any help with estate planning, please reach out to Lorien. If you need any help with your family, you've got inherited home that you don't know what to do with, if you got any situation with probate, your home is sitting vacant, that's why my business is here as well, the Probate Nurse. So please reach out. Thank you guys so much for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Lorien. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.